Reporting for Action 2 News Live, this is Daniel Glass.
All right. On the one, y'all.
Why do I always feel like I'm in a porn when somebody refers to me as talent?
Baby, what you doing tonight, sugar?
For those who don't know, which is mostly everybody, my name is Daniel Glass. I am a drummer, an author, an educator. I played for many years with a band called Royal Crown Revue that actually has a pretty stellar touring record here in Australia. We've done a dozen tours over the years, and these days I'm playing with Brian Setzer, both in his big band and in a small group situation with him.
Well, I heard more.
I am performing at Australia's greatest drumming event, which is called the Australian Ultimate Drummers Weekend. Frank Corniola, the guy who promotes it, brings down drummers, the best drummers in the world. Not only great Australian drummers, but some of the biggest names. For example, the guy who's playing with Pink, Mark Schulman, he's here on the festival. Greg Bissonette, who played with David Lee Roth, and now he plays in Ringo Starr's All-Star Band. He's here on the festival. Virgil Donati, probably Australia's best-known drumming export. He's on the festival. So it's 2 days, and then we do a little tour. We'll go up to Canberra and Sydney and present different things there as well. So it's fantastic. I have studied quite a bit in my life, although in sort of unorthodox ways. I was classically trained when I was a kid. I studied snare drum and timpani, but I paid it no mind whatsoever. Totally just did it because my parents made me. And then I got into rock and roll, and I was a rock drummer for a long time. And then as I decided I wanted to really pursue this professionally, then I really got serious about my training at that point. And I studied with a very legendary drummer. In addition to going to music school, I studied with a very legendary drummer named Freddie Gruber, who a lot of people know these days. He trained people like Neil Peart from Rush and Dave Weckl, Steve Smith. So when I started really studying with Freddie, then I got really deep and serious about studying, and I've been a student ever since. Play some guitar, and if I have to do arranging for horns, because I've been in bands that have horn sections, I'll use the piano for that. But don't hire me to play on your session anytime soon as a guitar player. Wow, that is Ian Pace. For starters, from Deep Purple was my first big drum hero when I was a little kid, and I noticed that he set up his drums different than everybody else. And I figured out, it's quote-unquote backwards, so he must be left-handed. And from that, I said, well, I'm left-handed, so I'm going to set up my drums left-handed as well. And so because of Ian Pace, I set up as a left-handed drummer. So he's my number one. Certainly Phil Collins is a famous left-handed drummer. Joe Porcaro, actually, in L.A., famous Jeff Porcaro, who played with Toto and was one of the great session drummers. His dad, Joe Porcaro, is a lefty, and it validated my own leftiness when I saw Joe set up. My very first band, when I was an 8th grader, I got hired by the guys in high school, 9th, 10th graders, to play in a Black Sabbath tribute band. So I was a 13-year-old kid playing War Pigs and Sweet Leaf and everything else, and that was like the greatest thing ever for me, you know. So that I was a big time rock drummer. That was what I was into, and then I slowly just transitioned. But what I do now, or what I was able to do in the bands that I played in the last 20 years, is that I could bring some rock and roll to the swing and jazz environment, and I feel very lucky that I have a lot of kind of history and experience in both settings, so I can really mix and match, and that makes it fun. The Century Project is sort of the culmination of 12 years of research. Being involved in this band, Royal Crown Revue, they were doing all this interesting stuff from, in these styles I'm talking about, more traditional styles like traditional jazz, traditional, classic swing music from the 1930s big band era, bebop, rhythm and blues, rockabilly, early rock and roll, ska, rock steady. And I was introduced to all these styles when I joined the band, but I wasn't really playing them the right way. I was playing them, but it wasn't all that authentic. And they said, well, you need to go listen to this stuff and really learn about it. So I started listening to the records. Then I said, okay, I'm going to go out and buy all the books about these styles and the DVDs, and there were none. So I sort of said, well, I'm going to be the guy that creates the books and the DVDs about these styles, because the more I got into it and the more I learned about these styles, I realized, and then I started actually interviewing the drummers who had created, the first rock beat and created rockabilly and had played with everybody from Elvis to Frank Sinatra to Benny Goodman to Duke Ellington, and these guys' stories were not being told, and they were getting old and they were passing on and leaving us, and these are the guys that invented the things that we do every day when we sit down as drummers. So the Century Project is my sort of taking 12 years of research and interviews and really focusing on this stuff and presenting it in sort of one complete package. I think in the majority of the cases they were tremendously receptive, because like I said earlier, a lot of these guys had been completely ignored or forgotten, or no one was interested in their stories. And certain styles, nobody sort of thought, well, this is historically important, until somebody goes, hey, this is historically important, and presents something, a documented historical take on it, and then they go, holy crap, why didn't I think of that? Or why hasn't this been done before? Yeah, this. So it's sort of like when I present the DVD now, a lot of people are coming up to me going, it's about time somebody did this. But 10 years ago, when I was saying this needs to be done, nobody was really on board with me. So it's taken me a while to win over the drumming community, win over my sponsors and that sort of stuff, with saying, look, this is vital that we get into this, and here's a really cool way we could take, history. And the interviews themselves were wonderful. And once they realized that I was really serious and that I was a drummer myself and that I was really deep into this, then they opened up to me. And many of them became my very close personal friends, which sucks when they're all old guys and, we continue to lose them all the time. I mean, it's heartbreaking. But I feel really blessed that I was able to get to know so many of the legends before they left us. I don't think there is such a difference. I think you can totally entertain people while teaching them about something. And the reason I learned about that, interestingly, was from being in Royal Crown Revue. Because with Royal Crown Revue, we started the whole swing resurgence that happened in the 90s. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course, you guys got up and do your thing and everybody loves it and whatever. But when the band first started, people didn't know what the hell this was, and they didn't know whether they are supposed to like this or not. And we came up in Los Angeles, which is a community that is very tough on musicians. There's 1 million people trying to succeed there, and so we came out swinging. I mean, we would just come out and grab people by the throat and just not let them go, and came out just showing people that this music in its day, if presented with the right energy, was something that was just as powerful as any rock music you would see today. So we were educating people about the look, the sound, the style, the gear, and the power of this music while completely entertaining people. We really believed in putting on a show. So when I took what I did more into the educational realm, I suddenly I could use those same lessons, and sort of teach people while entertaining them. So, it's about the look, it's about the show, it's about the presentation. All of that's important. At the same time, once you got them hooked, they're really open to hearing what you have to say. Continuing on my trajectory, which is building my, the inroads I made as a historian and a teacher, and then also as a drummer. I'm playing with the Setzer Orchestra. I'm making a record with him in late September. We're going back on the road to do his holiday tour at the end of the year, and I'm really excited about all of it. It's just a beautiful thing, and I like teaching. I teach a lot, private teaching.